Hey, good morning. It's 7:30 on a Thursday, and you are live with me, Preston, right here for Done Believing. Done Believing. Moving away from simply believing the truth, straight towards knowing the truth, all for the purpose of overcoming your own delusions. And we've all got them, some of us more than others. But the idea is that we got to look at ourselves and go, why am I thinking the way I'm thinking? Why am I doing that? And a special shout out to anybody who is watching this video because they are currently not friends with me on Facebook, but they've come over to my Facebook profile and they're checking me out for material to use against me because I've made a smart ass comment on your post. Just a special shout out to you. I wish you well in your endeavors to try to get one over on me. And I bet you can because people have done it many times. But just interesting little story real quick before we get into it. Very quick. I made some dumb comment on a general post and I got a typical kickback. And one thing that I notice happens regularly is if somebody's going to trash talk me or anybody, they'll do it to you as well. They will go onto your profile and they'll look around at your stuff. And then they'll come back and they'll find something from your profile, a picture that you posted, and they'll use that to talk trash, which is very interesting that some little smart aleck comment that you make is so important to them. They'll take time out of their life to check you out on your Facebook page to try to get material to use against you. Very interesting. I was flattered. I made some comment about how real men don't have girls, they have boys. That's like an alpha male. Okay, I was like, yeah, real men make all boys. They don't have girls. And I put like a little winky smiley face. And this guy, his next comment back to me was, yeah, well, you must not be a real man because I see you have a daughter. I'm like, oh, so you went on my Facebook page. I have become so important to you. You'll take time out of your day to go and look me up on my Facebook page and look at my photos and see what's going on. Very interesting. So special shout out. If you are watching this video because you're trying to get material on me, go ahead. I'm flattered. Here's one. I'm horrible at spelling. So maybe put something like that in your comment that you're going to say to me. Okay, I digress from that. Good morning. Hey, the question of the week. It's Thursday, so we're going to get to the question of the week tomorrow. And the question this week, here, I've got it. I'll put it up there for you in case you want to read it, in case you care. You might not care. I don't care. But hey, here it is. Do you take credit for your sinful desires? And I ask that question because I hear so many people giving God the credit and the glory for every time they do something good. They're like, oh, it's not me. It's God who gave me the opportunity. Or they have something smart that they said and they go, no, it wasn't me who's smart. It's God working through me. And I agree with that 100%. And that's good. Give God the credit for that. Totally agree with you. But it's interesting that they will give God the credit for what is good all day long. But when it comes to them doing something bad and evil and sinful, they take all the credit, all on their own. They never say, well, I gave into temptation that came to me from not me. Nope, I tempted myself. If you say to a person, you know, like Satan's in your head tempting you. No, he's not. It's the craziest thing. You're like, well, no, it's not you who's tempting you to do bad things. It's Satan inside of you. I don't have Satan in me. I'm a Christian. They get so offended. I mean, not really offended, not the people I know that I've talked to, but they will defend it. They will defend. They will go down with the ship. They will defend as hard and as steady as they can the idea that Satan isn't messing with them. It's them screwing their own life up. It's the damnedest thing, Papa. Papa, it's the damnedest thing. But it exists. And that's why I asked the question, do you take credit for your own sinful desires? Think about that. Just a little something to think about. Hey, I want to get into it today. I was thinking about something. I'm always thinking about something. That's the problem. I'm an overthinker. But I have stopped getting pissed off at myself for being an overthinker. I have embraced it. I've come out of the overthinking closet. I'm a proud overthinker. Let's start a overthinkers parade. Overthinking pride parade for those of us who like to think about stuff. Hey man, if I liked to hunt, I would probably be on Facebook and YouTube talking about hunting tips, but I don't like doing that. It's too much work. I'm a lazy person. I prefer to just sit around and think. I do my work in my head. Anyways, listen, here's a little thing. Stick with me on this. Little fun experiment for the two of us. I want you to imagine with me, you and I are anthropologists. And an anthropologist is somebody who studies people and behaviors and things like that. Okay, so we are anthropologists from another time and dimension, planet, whatever you want. Let's say that we're from, I don't want to be an alien because they got to have antennas or something like that. Let's be from another time and dimension. And we have been sent here to this planet Earth, this time, this dimension, as anthropologists to study these humans and see what makes them tick. We're part of a bigger team, but the two of us were sent, and we were sent to America, the United States. We landed here, and it's our job to look around. So we start looking around, and we're like, okay, all right. There's a lot of good stuff going on here. Hang on a second. A lot of good stuff going on here, but we've noticed something here in America. We've been looking at all their different organizations, their bureaucracies, their governments, their institutions. We've noticed something here in America. In every one of these organizations, people groups, there's this other class of people, this other group of people who call themselves Christians. So we got no choice but to start studying these Christians a little bit closer. What is this? What's going on here? Who are these people? Even their politicians, even their most powerful, influential politicians, some of them claim to belong to this other group, not Americans, not even humans, Christians. What is that? So we look into it and we find out that a Christian is a person who believes in and tries to model their life after this guy named Jesus Christ. Not his real last name. I think that last name was given to him. But anyways, we realize, okay, these Christians are these people who are trying to model their life after this guy that lived a long time ago. Well, this guy must have been great. So who is this Jesus? So we go into looking at it. So we start our investigation by looking at the leaders of these Christians. It's not the leaders of the government, because some of the leaders of the government, like I was just saying, they claim to be of this Christian group. All right, so let's do that. So we're looking, we're checking stuff out, and we start to draw some conclusions about who Jesus is based off of the people who are trying to emulate him. And hell, as far as we're concerned, who are emulating him. They're very confident in their emulation of this Christ. So we deduce this. He must have owned tons of land. He must have owned tons of land and been a huge real estate tycoon. And we deduce this because of this little thing called church real estate. There's tons of real estate owned by these Christian groups and the leaders of these Christian groups that own and control huge swatches of land and real estate all around this globe. And like one of the biggest ones is this Catholic group that we've discovered. Not only do they own a boatload of land, they've also got a little chunk of land that is like their own Christian country. It's called the Vatican. Nobody can go over there and tell them what to do. It's their own little nation inside of there. Very interesting. This Jesus must have just owned tons of land. What's another one? Let's keep going. He must have written some great books. And we deduce this from looking at the leadership of this Christian group, because everybody who claims to be any sort of leader and has any kind of following behind them, once they hit a certain number of followers, and we've deduced it down, you and I, because we're good interdimensional anthropologists, we've deduced it down to once one of these Christian leaders hits like 10,000 plus followers, they crank out a book. And then they sell that book. It's amazing. So just this Jesus must have written a lot of really neat, interesting books to teach people how to be more like him. Very interesting. Very interesting. Wow. And that's actually confirmed because we've looked at some other religions, and those religious leaders also wrote books. Like, I don't know, this guy, the Quran we found, and it was written by this guy. And the Jehovah's Witness and the Mormons, they also have special books that were written by their leader. Amazing. So this Jesus, who lived a long time ago that everybody's trying to emulate, he must have written his own book, right? Surely we can't be wrong, but we're just making observations based off of his followers. Okay, here's another deduction that we boiled down just from observing the modern day Christians. He must have used reciprocity. I can't even read my own notes. That's why I had to write it down. He must have used the law of reciprocity and become stinking rich. That's right. He must have everything he received off of selling his books and his land. He must have taken all that money, given it away to poor people. And then because of the law of reciprocity, this God that he claimed to be the son of had to turn around and pay him back tenfold for what he did. So every time Jesus sold a book or sold some land, he gave all of that money back to poor people, and God 10 times over repaid him. So he must have used this law of reciprocity and become just stinking rich and powerful. Maybe that's why some of the politicians here in America claim to be Christian, because it's a religion of power and wealth by using God's own laws of reciprocity. Amazing. Here's another deduction we made, and I'm going to get through these as quickly as possible. He must have been well liked and received by many people. Isn't that wild? Everybody who heard this guy talk must have been like, wow, let's do what he says. That must be what it is, because everybody we see now is not telling anybody that they're not a Christian. As a matter of fact, they're saying that most everybody is a Christian just by being born. They're already some type of son or daughter of God just because they were born. This is amazing, this Jesus and how he was and his philosophies. Outstanding. Everyone must have liked him. If anybody didn't like Jesus, they must have been a son of a bitch. And then we find out later that he was actually murdered. It blows our minds, but let me keep going. He began asking, wait. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm going to end with that one. That's right. That was the last observation. There's many more, but I'm going to stop with that one. So we looked at all these and we looked into them and we realized, wait a second, Jesus didn't write any books. Unlike all these other religious leaders and religions, he never wrote any of this stuff down. Why is that? It was just people later on in life wrote stuff down about him. Interesting. And he definitely didn't sell any of the things. We noticed, we're anthropologists, right? We're going to stick with this analogy. We notice that religious leaders, when they get these books, they credit God for having given them the insight of the teaching. And God gave it to them for free, but then they turn around and sell the book enough to live off of the money that they make. But now we realize that Jesus didn't actually do that. Interesting. Then we realize Jesus didn't actually own any land either. Neither did any of his followers as far as a group. They didn't group own anything. They personally owned houses. But we realize that they as a Christian group didn't really own much of anything. Wow, okay. He didn't use the law of reciprocity to get rich. He gave freely of himself and didn't expect anything in return. Wait a second. That's not what we're being told in the example that we're being given by these religious leaders of today. Let's keep going. He must have been well liked by many. Wait, then we learned that, as a matter of fact, he wasn't well liked, and even his closest friends because he had 12 of them. We figure a guy as popular as Jesus today must have had a lot of friends, but it turns out he only had 12. And out of that 12, there was only 11. And out of that 11, they all took off and ran away from him and hated him. They were afraid. They were so afraid they couldn't stick by him. And everybody else who was like cheering him on ended up being the ones that put him on a cross and killed him. His own race, his own culture. It's crazy. So, as an anthropologist, based off of our observations of these Christians as a group, we realize, well, there's no such thing as a Christian because none of these people are like what this Christ was like. Fascinating. So then we do something different as an anthropologist. We turn and we begin to interview individual people, individuals. And we say, hey, you're a Christian. Yes. Tell us about why you're a Christian and what makes you a Christian. And by talking to individual people, we begin to realize there's some weight behind their testimonies. Actually, in the life of an individual person, we start to see, well, this person used to be like this and now they're different. And as a matter of fact, they made a decision to start following Jesus and their family turned against them. Their friends turned against them. They're being called a bigot. And this person over here used to be rich and greedy, but now because they became a Christian, they're actually not rich and greedy. They're sharing and generous with their money. Interesting. So on the grand scale, when we looked at the organizations and the leaders, we deduced that there's just no such thing as a Christian because none of these people are like Christ. But then once we actually started looking at individuals, we found these individuals within themselves are like Christ. Amazing. Amazing. Now, if you've been with me this whole time, if you've watched this whole time, this whole video, I just want to say this has been a little bit of satire. This has been a satire. I shouldn't have to spell it out for people, but I will. And my point is, if you look around at the example of Christ that is being portrayed by the religious leaders, you will determine one thing and one thing only. There's no such thing as a Christian. Pretty bleak, isn't it? Kind of bleak. Wow. Just give up. But if you look at the life of an individual, if you get to know people, if you give a damn about another human being enough to really listen to them, you will find that indeed there are Christians. So my advice as an interdimensional anthropologist is just get out of the crowds and get to know an individual person. That's what Jesus did. Jesus only had 12 friends, close friends. And out of those 12, he really only had 3. And out of those 3, he really only had that one, Peter, who was really close to him, who he could confide in. And he was so close with Peter, he ended up calling him Satan a couple of times because Peter was also not like Christ for a lot of his life. Very interesting. Very interesting. When you just really look at what's going on, when you observe life instead of try to control it, amazing things happen. Right? And that is the key to it. Stop trying to figure people out and start just giving a damn about them. Right? We're going to end with that. I hope you've enjoyed that. Maybe you haven't, but I bet you have. Wasn't that fun? Me and you pretending to be anthropologists, interdimensional anthropologists. Hey, have a great one. See you back tomorrow, Friday. It's already Friday. I can't believe another week flown by. Have a great one.